Hello, everyone. This is Mana 446. And so what we're going to do here is this week I'm just going to give a little breakdown on what the semester is going to be like, a little overview of the class. We're going to be focused mostly on this is mostly about staffing. So as we go through, there's a number of things that are going to happen. But we're going to focus a lot on the legal environment that we make employment decisions in. Primarily in Canada, but there are a number of similarities to how things function in the United States and Western Europe. So we'll kind of discuss a few things there, but the actual employment law that we'll cover in the third week is going to be Canadian law. Now, when then, but before that, we will discuss just a quick refresher review of sort of statistics, research methods, and sort of scientific issues in general, just because um, building a good selection system is and figuring out that it works is a research study. So we'll keep working on that, and that way we'll use various terminology from statistics that will throughout the semester, and making sure that everybody's refreshed and on the same board, knowing things like means, standard deviations, correlations. That will help out throughout the semester. So that's why we're going to do that. Then we're going to focus on probably the most important technique, which is called job analysis, and move into discussing individual differences, which is one of the main things that we assess in making selection decisions, and then go through various methods. We'll spend quite a bit of time talking about testing and interviews, primarily as well. Interviews are probably well, resume reviews and a subsequent interview is probably the most common method of selecting employees in the entire world. Every company uses it at some level. So we'll spend quite a bit of time working on those ideas, then focus for weeks on how we build and validate selection systems. Um, so, and then kind of try to put it all together at the end. So that's sort of how the semester goes. So we focus a lot on selecting personnel selection, and all of the details that go into that. So we'll just take a moment to go over it. And similarly, I also want to point out just some of the unusual features of this semester. We will be all remote. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to post a video like this every week, probably on sometime on Monday or Tuesday morning, so that people have plenty of time. You can view it. These will typically, since it's just going to be me talking, usually over a set of lecture slides, it won't be, they'll probably be about anywhere from half an hour to an hour and 20 minutes at most. And so we'll do that asynchronously, so people can watch those on their own time whenever they want to. Watch them multiple times if you want, take notes, whatever. But I want people to do that ahead of the normally scheduled class time. And because you'll do that, we don't necessarily have to spend the entire time in class. So we may not use like the full 5:45 to 8:15 every week. We might use it if people have enough questions, but I don't feel like people have to feel obligated to have that entire block of time completely available. But we will have interactive sessions via Zoom every week at the normally scheduled class time. And I do expect that's going to be where we assess participation in this class. So I will also, ahead shortly before the Zoom session each week, I will be posting an activity. Usually this will be a Word document or something along those lines that you can fill in your answers to, and then email them to me at the end of the class time. And that's going to be one way that I assess participation, as well as people asking questions during the Zoom, making comments. As I point out, sharing relevant personal experiences can also be very useful. Like you can talk about particularly good or particularly bad experiences applying for a job that you've had. If you have experience on the other side, like if you've ever interviewed someone for any purpose, whether it's selection or otherwise, talking about those sorts of things. Anytime, like, we'll talk somewhat about something about cognitive ability and personality testing. If you have experience with those sorts of things, we can go through. Those are the kinds of things we can talk about. But asking relevant questions, helping out your fellow classmates, answering questions that I ask the class, those are all also go to participation. And so attending while attendance every week in every single Zoom session is probably not strictly necessary. It's going to be a good idea to try to make sure you're available for them. And it's also going to be the closest. I mean, the reason, none of us planned to have an online only experience, and you wouldn't be coming to a university in person to a university like Concordia if that's what you wanted. So those Zoom sessions are going to be the closest that we can get to the kind of face-to-face experience that I think is valuable. And again, that's what I think it's really important. We do it this way so that a large chunk of the class at least can participate somewhat simultaneously. I think it's important, and so that we can all learn from each other. There's added value in experiencing the class together with both me and your classmates. So hopefully we can make that work well. I just want to answer, just focus on some of the other smaller questions that people might have. Actually, the other thing I want to say is, and I will reiterate this in next week's video as well, that if there is one Zoom session not to miss, it will be next week's Zoom session. So during the regularly scheduled class time, probably not the entirety of that class time, but during the regularly scheduled class time, it will be very, very useful for you to be present, because that is when we will choose groups. In order. So both of the written assignments in this course are team-based assignments. So there was one that will be due the 6th week and one that's currently scheduled to be due the 11th week, but we can make that the 12th week if people want. I just want there to be enough time that I can give at least a minimal feedback to people before the final exam. So we'll want to be in the Zoom session so that, otherwise if you're not, I'll wind up just assigning people to groups. And that might be good, might be bad, but people probably might not want that. So if there's one session that you want to make sure that you are definitely available for, it will be next week's Zoom session. So next Thursday, the normally scheduled class time, you'll want to be available for that. And those assignments, I'll just break them down briefly now. I'll be posting the assignment, the first assignment guidelines probably next week, just give people plenty of time to work on it. Although some of it will be mysterious because we won't have covered the main topic that it deals with yet. So we will be, which we won't cover until week 4, actually. So, but you can get started on it in a lot of ways. But anyways, what we're going to be doing in that assignment is as a team, you're going to be conducting a real job analysis. So you'll find some job that your whole team thinks is interesting, that is worthwhile, and you will attempt to find out how people do it. This can involve library research. I'll discuss several other resources that can help out, like the United States Department of Department of Labor has a fascinating resource called ONET, the Occupational Information Network, that can be very, very helpful as a first step in doing a job analysis. But basically, you want to find out what the job is about, what people do on the job, and what knowledge, skills, abilities, or any other characteristics that the job requires. So that way we can, and this helps us to figure out, well, basically, I mean, almost everything about what we're going to do. It's bad in general if you haven't done a job analysis. It's bad to design a selection system, any kind of select instruments that go into the selection system, promotion systems. It's also not a good idea to go like do major like layoffs or resizing of your organization in any format without having conducted job analyses first. And I will have the first professional job that I did in this arena was a job analysis. So I'll go back. Well, actually, a multiple job analysis, and we'll go back and I'll try to make sure that that's clear from the experience I had there. So that's going to be the first assignment, and that one's relatively the written component of that is going to be relatively short. We're looking for 3 to 5 pages on that, so fairly short report. And again, but just bear in mind that doesn't cover like if you have any figures or tables or references, that's not going to count towards your page total. So you don't have to. So like what you turn in may be 10 pages long. But it could be depending on if you decide to organize a lot of information in tables and stuff like that. You could have a reasonably long long paper, even though the actual component that you wrote, the report itself, is only 5 pages. The second report is going to be to find an organization that your team would be interested in working for and figuring out how they select people, what kind of selection system they use, and critiquing it, which means both things. You could say what they're doing that's good, what they're doing that's bad or at least substandard, and what they could do to improve it. That's the second one, and it's a little bit more in depth. Most people have wound up using the business. Usually, it's business, not exclusively that people look at, but the organization, their website will often tell you an awful lot about what their selection procedures are. People have contacted in the past. People have contacted an HR representative to ask more detailed questions about it. Usually, they're just saying, this is for a course project in MANA 446. Course, and I'd just like to know more about how you do it there. I think you're an interesting organization, and I'd like to work for you, or something along those lines. It's worked out perfectly fine in the past. But again, like I said, that will be more detail. I'll probably be handing that assignment out either just before or just after the midterm. And that probably leads us to the question that people will be most concerned about here are the exams. So the exams are going to be in a take-home unproctored format. I've used that in this class before, even a couple of years ago. So like I've used this format before. I don't think that there's any reason that I mean I have very little reason to suspect that anyone has ever cheated on those exams any more than people cheat on regular proctored exams in person. So I'm not particularly worried about that. What's going to happen is I will post the exam form to Moodle at a pre-specified time, and then there will be a certain period of time for people to complete it. That's actually going to be a somewhat generous time frame, just because some people maybe not everyone is going to be in Montreal or even in the Eastern time zone. So I don't want to force people, like if you're in, France or Israel or India or something, that, if you're at a substantially different time zone, I don't want to force everyone to have to be on exactly the same schedule. And that's why I want to try to arrange this class so that if you are unable to participate in the Zoom meetings, that there's enough asynchronous components to this course that I think that you can do really well, even if you are unable to participate in the Zoom sessions. I mean, there's a part of me that doesn't even want to have Zoom sessions. I'd like to make this fully asynchronous, but again, I think there is a lot of value to people being able to ask live questions, hear what other people are having difficulty or concerns or misunderstandings or insights about. I think there is a legitimate sort of an emergent God, I hate this term, synergy, that comes from that. So again, that's why we're going to have both asynchronous and synchronous components to this class. But I want to make sure that people are able to do to show me what they know. And the exams are both going to be the same format, and they're very little. They're not very different in terms of assessment. As you can see, the midterm exam is going to be 20% of your grade. The final exam is going to be 25% of your grade. The first term paper is going to be 20% of your grade, so just like the midterm. The second assignment term paper is going to be 25% of your grade, so just like the final. And participation is going to be 10% of the grade. So I think you're going to find that, I mean, as you can see, like things are pretty spread out. So I think that this should be a pretty straightforward sort of thing. I don't think that people should have a lot of problems with this. I mean, my experience has been in the past that, I mean, the term papers people do pretty well on. They have some troubles, but basically they do pretty well. The exams have been hard. People have difficulty with the exams, but that just means that there's pretty much standard variance in the grades. This class looks like what a 400 level course in management should look like in terms of the grade distribution. So so people pull through in this, and we're going to try to make this semester as gentle as possible. Like we don't want this is like I said, this is not what anybody signed up for. It's not what anybody wanted. Probably when you joined the Concordia community. So we're going to try to make sure that everything is okay. So that's how it's going to be. So just so people know, so as I said, this is the general format that we're going to be taking, except most weeks there will also, what I'm going to be doing is instead of just posting a short introduction video like this, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be posting something longer. We're going to go through slides. I will introduce in that whatever activities that I'm going to also be posting to the Moodle. So those are the sorts of things. So this one's relatively low key, nothing major. And also just so people know, this week, although I don't have a Zoom session, I will be available between 6 o'clock and 7:45 on both email and Moodle, so that if anybody has questions, they can send those to me. And for this purpose, although I will be checking my email, I would prefer people to use the messenger system in Moodle for that sort of thing. And we may supplement like our live interactive sessions if people are if anyone is having difficulty with, say, their audio video setup at home. We can use we will have some kind of messaging system, whether it's in Moodle or if we need to use something else. We'll try to make sure that works. I know that some people I've had students even locally, just when we've had meetings, virtual meetings with some like masters or PhD students that they've had trouble with the audio video on Zoom. So just to make sure I'd like to make sure that people have options otherwise. So we'll do that. And altogether, that's the plan for this semester. The only thing I want to reiterate is, like I said, I don't think that people cheat anymore on the exams or the term papers than they do in any other class format. I just want to reiterate the academic integrity policy. It's written in full in the course outline, and basically I just want to make sure like that people realize I take it very seriously. Fortunately, since I've been this is now my fourth year, going into my fourth year at Concordia, and I haven't had any serious problems with cheating. I haven't had to report any students for anything here, but I did at my last job. I did have to do that to students in one of my MBA classes, and I prefer to avoid it, and so I ask that you don't cheat, don't plagiarize in your term papers. In fact, plagiarism is one of the easiest things to avoid. Is like if you can't think of a better way of saying something than some source that you found, you just cite the source. Put it in quotations and you cite it, and that's fine. You can't make an entire paper out of it, but if you're stuck and you just can't think of any other way to say something in your own words, quote and cite. It's fine. Every once in a while, it's a-okay. Like I said, don't make a whole paper out of like just strung together cited quotations. But it's okay to just cite things. And similarly, on the exams, don't cheat. It's your own work. So just do it. And again, it's take home. So like you can use your notes, you can use internet resources. I do monitor some discussion boards. So like if people start posting questions for my exam, I might notice. But again, like it's okay to look things up. I don't care. You won't have a lot of time to do that, so it's going to be best for you to go into those exams prepared. Because if you have to look up the answer to every question, you probably will not have enough time to do the exam. But if you know what you're doing, you just need to check something now and then. If you're prepared, it's going to be fine. And like I said, I'm not going to stop you using your notes. There's no way for me to do that, and I would prefer not I would prefer to trust you. So that's the way things are going to go here. And in general, I think hopefully overall, like I said, I'm aiming to try to have this be a very gentle semester for everyone. That doesn't mean it's going to be easier. That doesn't mean that it's going to be well, different in any non-obvious ways. But I would like to try to just keep it calm, keep it relaxed. We have plenty of time to get through everything that we're going to want to get through, and so we'll try for that. Anyways, so thank you very much. I'm glad to have you in this course. I look forward to meeting most of you next week in our first live session. I also noticed looking over the roster that there are several of you who have taken other courses with me. In fact, at least one of you has taken multiple courses with me, so welcome back. And as I say, like I don't know why, but it's good to have you back, and let's try to have the best semester that we can. And all right, so that's it. Like I said, I will be available primarily on Moodle from 6 p.m. to 7:45 Eastern time tonight, in case anybody has questions following this. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and I will see you next week. Take care.